So, you're an older man. Maybe you're in your 40s, 50s, or even 60s. You've seen the world, built a life, maybe even survived a few heartbreaks. And then along comes this young woman, vibrant, full of life, a little wild, a little mysterious, and, for some reason, she gives you attention. Not just polite small talk, but real attention. And suddenly, whether you admit it or not, you start feeling alive in a way you haven't yet in a while. It's flattering, it's exciting, and it's exactly where most men start making mistakes they don't even realize they're making. USC, there's something very specific that happens when an older man is drawn to a younger woman. He forgets that he's already complete. He forgets that all the years, the battles, the lessons, those are his power. But in that rush of dopamine, he starts adjusting. He starts softening his edges, shrinking himself down, trying to fit into her world instead of standing solid in his own. And that's when the dynamic flips. She stops seeing a man and starts seeing a guy trying to impress, trying to be cool, trying to win her. And just like that, the attraction disappears. This video isn't about judgment. It's about clarity. It's about helping you keep your dignity, your masculinity, and your self-respect intact in the face of temptation, admiration, or even genuine equity. We're going to talk about what not to do when you're in the presence of a younger woman, and how a stoic man, a grounded man, a man in full possession of himself would approach this entire situation differently. These aren't just dating tips, they're life strategies. So, if you're tired of being confused, manipulated, or thrown off by someone who hasn't even lived half your life yet, this is going to be a wake-up call. You didn't. I know, you need it. Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to see exactly where men fall and how you can rise by doing less, not more. Number 1, don't try to be her age. Point 1, pain is the catalyst. You're not her peer. One of the most common mistakes older men make when engaging with younger women is trying to shrink themselves down to her world, trying to talk like her, dress like her, or pretend they get her pop culture references. It usually starts from a good place, a desire to connect, to relate. But what actually happens is the complete opposite. You lose the very thing that made you interesting in the first place. The moment you try to act like her peer, she stops seeing you as the grounded, composed, experienced man and starts seeing you as someone trying too hard. And no matter how subtly you do it, she can feel it. Women, especially younger ones, have a sixth sense for authenticity. When an older man tries to be cool by mimicking her lifestyle, it feels off. Not because of the age gap, but because of the insecurity underneath. The reality is, your age is not your disadvantage. It's your edge. You've lived, you've failed, you've risen again. You carry something she doesn't even understand yet. Presence, a deep, unshakable presence latently comes from time in the trenches of life. That's what draws her in. Not your ability to name some trending TikTok dance or quote her favorite Netflix. But too often older men feel they have to keep up when in fact the most attractive thing you can do is slow down. Be still. Be solid. Let her run her youthful energy around you while you stand firm in your center. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're in a date and she mentions how obsessed she is with some 23-year-old influencer. You could pretend you know who that is, laugh along, maybe even pull out your phone and fake scroll like you follow them. Or you could simply smile and say, I don't follow that stuff much. I'm more into conversations that don't disappear in 24 hours. But one sentence, that's strength, that's difference, that's mystery, and that's exactly what catches her off guard in the best way possible. Not because I are trying to be her, but because you're reminding her you're not. That's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be relatable, you become magnetic. Number 2, don't become her emotional too. The power of complete silence. Sponge. Another trap older men often fall into is becoming the emotional sponge for a younger woman, absorbing all her chaos, confusion, and childhood wounds in the name of being there. For here, it starts innocently enough. She opens up about her past. Maybe her ex treated her badly. Maybe her parents were never around. Maybe she's working on herself. And because you're older and emotionally mature, you listen. You want to help. You feel like maybe, just maybe, she sees something in you she can't find in boys her age. But slowly, you find yourself being her therapist, her emotional dumping ground, her midnight phone call when life feels overwhelming. And deep down, you think this is building a connection. You think if I'm the one who understands her, she choose me. But the truth, that's not romantic bonding, it's emotional outsourcing. Especially younger ones will often unconsciously gravitate toward or older men for a sense of. But if you confuse emotional caretaking with attraction, you'll get stuck in the most frustrating P position possible. The friend zone dressed up as intimacy. You'll hear about her bad decisions, her confusing dates, her mental health spirals, but none of it will lead to respect or desire. Why? Because a Stoic man doesn't entangle himself in drama to feel needed. He provides calm by simply being calm. He listens without rescuing. He offers insight without investment. There's a difference between being emotionally available and emotionally absorbent. One is grounded, the other is needy. Dress it up as nice. Imagine she calls you crying about her latest situation, and instead of diving into fix-it mode, you just say, "That sounds like a lot. I hope you give yourself space to figure it out." That one line, it signals that you represent, but not caught. She feels seen, but not able to latch on and pull you. Her emotional storm. That's Stoicism in practice. It's not about being cold. It's about knowing the difference between offering presence and sacrificing your peace. A man who's mastered his emotions doesn't let someone else's turbulence pull him off, of course, no matter how pretty the storm looks. Number 3. Never chase her validation. Let's talk about a mistake 3. Starve her of your attention. That quietly kills the respect dynamic between an older man and a younger woman chasing her validation. It doesn't look like desperation at first. It starts subtle. You compliment her one more time than she deserves. You wait longer for her replies. You soften your standards just to keep her interested. You change your tone. You filter your truth, all for one thing, her approval. But here's the thing. The moment you need her validation, she loses interest. You're not just a man anymore. You become a performer. You stop leading and start pleasing. You're not in your masculine. You're orbiting her emotional world like a moon, desperate for gravity. That's not attraction. That's erosion. And for a younger woman, someone still learning who she is, still exploring her identity, this becomes a power game, not always consciously, but instinctively. She senses when your center is off balance, when you're bending instead of standing, and instead of admiring your flexibility, she starts to more pull back, go cold, just to see if you'll chase again. You don't win her respect by being agreeable. You win it by being centered. Stoicism teaches that a man's value is not dependent on how others see him, but on how he sees himself. As Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Flip that. When you stop caring about her approval, you regain your rapport. Let's get practical. You're texting a younger woman. She takes 5 hours to respond. You notice it, but you don't panic. You don't double text. You didn't send a meme just to reopen the convo. You continue living, training, building. You let her come to you. And if she doesn't, you still win, because you didn't compromise your center. The moment you chase her validation, you lose your edge. And for older men, this is even more critical, because your value isn't in being fun or relatable. It's in being grounded, unshakable. That's what draws her in the contrast. Your emotional stillness against her chaotic curiosity. Here's the deeper issue. Most older men chase validation because they fear irrelevance. Society whispers, "You're too old to compete." So when a younger woman shows interest, they think, "If I lose her, I won't get another chance like this." That's scarcity talking, not truth. You're not losing a chance. You're dodging a trap. Validation chasing also leads to self-betrayal. You start agreeing with things you don't believe in. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You tolerate behavior that insults your standards, all to keep the peace. But here's the paradox. Peace at the cost of your identity isn't peace. It's self-eraser, and women can feel it, especially younger ones. They're drawn to older men because they want someone who won't bend to them, someone who teaches through energy, not through lectures. When you stop chasing her validation, you give her something far more magnetic, something to prove herself to. Let me tell you about Tom. Tom's 48. Divorced, successful. He started dating a 28-year-old. At first, things were exciting, but he started overcompensating, planning expensive dates, complimenting her constantly, adjusting his beliefs to avoid arguments, and slowly she started pulling back, less engaged, One day, she told him, I just don't feel that spark anymore. What she really meant, you lost your edge. After the breakup, Tom shifted. He stopped performing, he started working out again, built a new business branch, reconnected with his mission. Months later, the same woman reached out. And this time, he wasn't the same man. He didn't need her approval. He had become the man he should have been from the start, and she could feel it. That's the power of not chasing. That's Stoic strength in action. You don't need her to clap for you. You don't need her to agree. You don't even need her to stay. You just need to stay centered. And when you do, she'll either rise to meet you or fall away. Either way, you win. Comment below. I lead from center. If you're done performing and ready to live in your truth, and don't leave yet. Back was what happens when you stop trying to impress. Might just flip the entire dynamic. 4. Emotional detachment is dominance. Number 4. Don't try to impress. Lead instead. You're not here to impress her. Let that sink in for a second, because everything in modern dating screams the opposite. Flashy dinners, clever text games. What do I say to make her like me? But if you're an older man dealing with a younger woman, trying to impress her is exactly what drains your presence and destroys your edge. Here's why. Firmament, you shift from leading to impressing. You move from masculine to performative. You make her the judge. You make yourself the contestant. And that subtle shift changes everything. Now you're not holding the frame. You're asking her to hold it. That dinner reservation you rushed to make? That new shirt gal bought just because it might catch her eye? That carefully worded compliment you hesitated to send? She can feel all of it. Not in the details, but in the energy. And that energy says, I hope that this works. That's not attractive. That's insecure. Now, don't get it twisted. Leadership doesn't mean domination. It doesn't mean barking orders or acting superior. It means direction, presence, stability. And when you're with a younger woman, especially one who's used to emotional chaos from guys her age, what she's secretly craving is someone who doesn't wobble, someone who doesn't need applause to move forward. You show that by leading. Leading isn't about being loud, it's about being decisive. You say, let's do this instead of, what do you want to do? You move with certainty, with arrogance. You don't ask for permission to be masculine. You embody it. Let's flip the script with a real example. Imagine you're meeting a younger woman for coffee. Most older men try to impress right away, talk about their career, their cars, their travels. You don't. You sit down, relaxed, grounded. That you ask her about her values. You listen without needing to agree or disagree. You don't talk to win, you talk to connect. You don't lead with flash, you lead with calm. And what happens? She leans in, not because you performed, but because you're anchored. You're not chasing her attention. You're commanding respect. Stoicism teaches this in every form. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because the Stoic man doesn't live to please crowds. He lives to align with principle. The same applies in dating. You don't fit what she wants. You live according to your direction. And if she aligns with that, great. If not, you keep walking. Here's what most men forget. Your job is not to impress her, to reveal who you are through how you act, how you hold eye contact, how you say no without flinching. That's leadership. That's real masculine energy. It's not loud, but it's unforgettable. And leadership extends beyond just decision. It's emotional leadership, too. She gets emotional. You stay. Calm. She tests boundaries. You hold them. She tries to escalate drama. You disengage, not to punish, but because peace is your standard. When you lead with stability, you give her something rare. A man she can trust, even when she's uncertain. The men who impress may win her attention for a night. The men who lead, they stay in her mind for months, because they gave her an experience of polarity, of grounded masculine strength that doesn't ask for approval. So, stop rehearsing what to say. Stop Googling the perfect lines. Stop trying to win her like a prize. You're not a contestant. You're at the frame lead. Comment below. I move with direction. If you're done performing and ready to embody presence. And don't miss this, because once you stop over-investing too soon, everything else falls into place naturally. Number 5. Don't project long-term. 5. Rebuild in the shadows. Fantasies. Early. You just met her. She's beautiful. She's young. She's showing interest. And suddenly your mind starts racing. What if this actually becomes something serious? You picture vacations, dinners with her family, maybe even marriage. You imagine what it would feel like to have someone this vibrant beside you long term. You play out scenes in your head, and none of them have happened yet, but your emotional investment is already real. That's because the moment you start projecting a future with her too early, you stop seeing her clearly, you stop observing and start imagining, and that imagination becomes a trap. Here's why. You begin to respond to who you hope she is, not who she's actually showing herself to be. Every red flag becomes just a phase. Every gap in values becomes something we'll work through. You minimize what matters because you're addicted to the fantasy. And when that happens, she feels it. Not in your words, but in the energy. She feels the weight of your expectations. She feels the hour rush. And for a younger woman, that pressure isn't flattering, it's suffocating. She didn't ask to be your forever. She's just getting to know you. Let's ground this with something Stoic. Epictetus warned, when you are about to put your hand to something, remind yourself what it is. Dating isn't fantasy building. It's data collection. Especially early on, your job isn't to imagine where it could go. It's to pay attention to where it is, and most importantly, to see clearly. When you project too far ahead, you stop being present, and presence is everything. You miss key signals. You tolerate behavior you wouldn't accept from anyone else. You justify things like disrespect, inconsistency, or immaturity, because you're already emotionally attached to a version of her that doesn't even exist yet. And here's what happens when you do it. You start to overcommit. You make sacrifices too soon. You shift your schedule. You neglect your priorities. You skip workouts. You cancel on your friends. You drop boundaries, all for the potential of something meaningful. But potential is fantasy. Patterns are reality. If her actions show you fleckiness, immaturity, or selfishness, now that's who she is today, not the woman she could become in your mind. And no amount of projecting changes that. There's nothing wrong with having hope, but hope without observation becomes delusion. And for an older man, that kind of delusion costs more than it does for a younger one. You're not just risking feelings, you're risking your time, your energy, your mission, and that's a price you can't afford to waste. Let me give you an example. A guy named Dean, 52, successful, emotionally intelligent, started dating a woman in her mid-20s. She was playful, spontaneous, magnetic. Within 2 weeks, he told his friends, I think she could be the one. He started changing his routine to fit hers, skipped business trips, prioritized his finances to build a future. But she wasn't showing same commitment. She'd cancel last minute, ghost him occasionally, say one thing, do another. And instead of confronting it, he romanticized it, told himself, she just needs time. Fast forward 3 months, she moved on, now earning no closure, just disappeared. And Dean was wrecked, not because of what he lost, but because of what he thought he had. He wasn't grieving her, he was grieving the future he created alone. That's what projection does. It builds castles in your mind that reality can't support. So, what's the Stoic way? You stay rooted, you stay curious, but not committed too early. You observe patterns, not just potential. You slow the emotional pace, even if the physical chemistry is strong. You don't imagine 10 years together before you've seen how she handles disappointment, stress, or conflict. Because attraction is easy. Compatibility is tested. Instead of landing the future with her, watch how she behaves in the present. That's where the truth lives. Comment below. I live in the real if you're done fantasizing and ready to observe with clarity. And don't go anywhere. Because what happens, you stop being her option, is something most men never learn in time. 6. Attraction isn't chaste. Number 6. Don't be her backup plan or emotional filler. Here's a hard truth most men don't want to admit. Sometimes you're not the main guy in her life, you're the just in case, the maybe, the emotional crutch she leans on when the guy she really wants isn't around. You become her therapist, her entertainment, her safety net, not her priority. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse attention with affection. She texts you when she's bored, calls you when she's sad, flirts just enough to keep you around, but never fully commits. One day she's warm, the next she disappears for a weekend and comes back like nothing happened. You justify it. You say she's busy or she's figuring things out, but deep down you feel it. You're not her first choice. You're her convenience, and that should never be your position. Because here's the truth. Women don't fall for men they can lean on, they fall for men they can look up to. If she knows you'll always be there, no matter how little she gives in return, she stops valuing you. Not because she's cruel, but because humans naturally devalue what's always available, especially when it costs them nothing. Stoicism teaches us to honor the self, to withdraw from anything that disrespects our standards. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." The inverse is just as true. Avoid those who reduce you to half of who you are. Being a backup plan is a silent killer of masculine energy. Because, slowly, without realizing it, you start to shrink yourself. You become more agreeable, less honest. You filter your truth so she doesn't walk away. You keep showing up hoping one day she'll see your worth. But women don't see your worth when you make yourself small. They feel your worth when you set boundaries and mean them. Let me give you an example. Paul, 47, started talking to a 26 he met through friends. She was magnetic, smart, unpredictable. They'd hang out every couple weeks. Great conversations, playful chemistry, but she never made anything official. She'd ghost for days, then call him crying about another guy, and Paul, he'd pick up every time. He thought being supportive would win her over. But what she saw, a man she could use to process her feelings until someone else called. One day, she told him, "You're like my safe place." It sounded sweet, but Paul realized it wasn't romantic. It was convenient. He cut contact that night. 3 months later, she reached back out. This time, different tone. She saw he wasn't there to catch her anymore, and that changed the dynamic. Why? Because Paul reclaimed his position. He stopped being a safety net. He became a standard. You don't become desirable by always being available. You become desirable by being selective with your presence. You're another to be the rebound, the placeholder, the man she cries to about. The guy who actually gets her attention. You're the man who doesn't settle for half love. So, what does this look like in practice? If she only calls when she's emotional, but not when she's happy, step back. If she only texts you when she's lonely, but avoids commitment, stop replying. If she treats you like an emotional sponge, absorb nothing, let it bounce off. You don't need to block her. You don't need to be cruel. Just withdraw the privilege of your energy quietly, firmly, without drama, because your energy is not cheap. Women don't regret losing the man who was always available. They regret losing the man who knew his worth and walked when things felt unbalanced. That's the stoicmatam.com. Clear, detached, and if she comes back, it's not because you begged, it's because your absence spoke louder than your presence ever did. Comment below. I won't be her option if you're holding space for people who won't hold you. And stay right here, because what happens when you finally put your purpose first is what truly separates you from every man she's ever known. 7. Your indifference is her mirror. Number 7. Never lose your mission for her. This is where a lot of strong men get weak. Right here. Not when she ignores you, not when she tests you, but when she starts to feel special. When things get emotional. When the chemistry is high, and you start to think, Maybesh is worth bending for. And little by little, you shift. You skip a gym session. You postpone a work goal. You put off that business idea. You spend less time with your circle, more time on your phone. You start responding faster, changing plans to fit hers, rearranging your path so she can feel more comfortable in it. That's how it starts. It feels harmless, even romantic. But what's actually happening? You're stepping off your mission for her, and that's the beginning of the fall, because women, especially younger women, want to your mission. They want to feel safe inside a man who's already on one. They want to be part of your world, not the thing that defines it. You see, masculinity isn't about control, it's about direction. The more clear and grounded your direction is, the more magnetic you become. When you start leading with your mission, your purpose, your discipline, your COJ feels it. She might test you. She might challenge your priorities, but if you hold the line, she respects it, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. Stoicism teaches you this constantly. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask what others thought of his path. He stayed the course. He said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." So, let me ask, what do you become when you trade your ambition for comfort? You become forgettable. A man without a mission is just waiting to be replaced. He becomes emotionally dependent, reactional, lives and dies by her moods, and she can feel it. And once she feels that shift, once she becomes the center of your energy, she will either lose interest or worse, lose respect. Let me show you how this plays out. There was a guy named Jordan, 4-5 high-level exec built a successful company from scratch. He met a woman in her mid-20s, brilliant, playful, beautiful. She challenged him. He liked it. They got close. But over time, he started changing things. He skipped out on business trips, reworked his mornings to match her sleep schedule, delayed an investment because things were getting serious. From the outside, he looked like he was in love. But inside, he was drifting. He lost focus. He lost edge, and eventually he lost her. Why? Because she stopped feeling his leadership. He was no longer the man she was drawn to, the one who was building something, moving forward, alive with purpose. He became a passenger in his own life. That's the quiet death of attraction. Not because you failed, but because you forgot what made you powerful to begin with. Never confuse love with surrender. If she's truly right for your life, she wants you focused. She wants you obsessed with your growth, your work, your code. She wants to fit into your fire, not be the reason you expected. And if she leaves because you didn't put her first, let her. Because a Manwo stays on mission, who keeps building, keeps showing up, keeps growing, never runs out of options. But a man who gives that up to make it work with someone who doesn't value it, her runs out of himself. So stay on mission. Wake up on time. Take the trip. Invest in your vision. Train when you don't feel like it. Speak your truth even if she pushes back. Let her feel the gravity of a man who doesn't bend for comfort. That's what inspires her. That's what keeps her close. That's what makes her respect last. Comment below. I never leave my path if you're done shrinking for love and ready to lead with purpose. And don't stop here. Because what happens when you refuse to trade standards for affection changes the entire game. Number 8. She wants 8. Her games only work if you play a rock, not a puppet. Let's get something straight. She doesn't want you to bend to her, even if she tests you, even if she pushes your buttons, even if she gets moody, distant, or cold. What she truly wants is to feel you won't move, not away from her, but away from yourself. You see, a younger woman may play with power dynamics. She may flirt and withdraw. She may say, you don't open up enough, and the next day say, you're too available. That back and forth isn't meant to confuse you, though it will if you're not centered. It's meant to reveal you. She wants to see what happens when she shakes you. Do you yowable? Do you chase? Do you try to guess what she wants and give it before asks? If you do, you're no longer a rock, you're a puppet, and puppets never feel safe. Let me be clear, you can be kind, you can be compassionate, you can even be emotionally tuned in, but the moment you start rearranging your identity to match her emotional waves, she feels it, and the attraction starts to fade. Because what she really craves is structure, not in the form of rules or control, but in the grounded energy of a man who knows who he is and refuses to shrink or swell just to make her happy. She wants to test your emotional walls, not to break them down, but to see if they're real. And if you don't have them, if you collapse the moment she frowns or pulls back or makes a sarcastic comment, then she realizes you're not leading, you're adapting, and that's not sexy. That's weak. Stoicism offers the exact frame you need here. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do." That's what being the rock means. Tranquility, stillness, a silent confidence that doesn't need applause or approval. It means holding your tone when she gets emotional, holding your space when she becomes inconsistent, holding your path when she tries to pull you off course. Let me give you a real-world snapshot. There's a guy named Drew, 50s, grounded, successful, but divorced recently. He started dating a younger woman, mid-20s, energetic, unpredictable. At first, things were smooth. But then she started testing him, critiquing his routines, flirting in front of him, saying things like, "You'd be hotter if you dressed younger." Old Drew would have shifted, bought new clothes, tried to fit in, smiled and played along. But this Drew, he just smiled back and said, "That's funny. I like the way I move." He didn't flinch. He didn't defend himself. He didn't snap. He stayed centered. 2 days later, she asked to see him again, not because he agreed with her, but because he didn't. That moment told her everything she needed to know. This man doesn't bend, not to please, not to prove, not to perform. He's the rock dot. Because here's the hidden truth. Most women don't trust the man they can control. They want the man who is enough to say no without anger, and yes without need. They want to feel your weight, not your willingness. And if you're older, this is your biggest edge. Not that you have money, not that you have stories, but that you've done the inner work to know who you are. And you're not giving that away just because Bafta's hot and half your age. That's the difference between attraction that lasts a night and attraction that lingers for months. You don't win her heart by becoming her puppet. You earn her respect by staying the rock she can shake. Comment below. I hold the line if you're done shrinking and ready to stand your ground. And stay tuned, because the moment you stop letting her pull your strings, something powerful shifts in. What really holds the frame. Number 9. Don't buy her time. Command her. 9. Let her regret echo in your absence. Attention. There's a dangerous idea a lot of older men carry when dating younger women. If I offer in all-time gifts comfort, she'll stay. But here's the brutal truth. You don't buy a woman's attention. Not the kind that matters. Not the kind that lasts. You command it. Let's break that down. When a man starts paying too much, whether it's dinners, attention, emotional labor, he tells her one thing. My value external, that if he doesn't spend, she won't stay. If he doesn't impress, she'll lose interest. And when she feels that, she might stick around, but not out of desire, out of convenience. And when a woman stays because it's easy, not because she's drawn to you, you've already lost. A younger woman, especially one who has options, doesn't need a sponsor. She needs a signal that you don't just have resources, you have restraint, that you're not trying to earn her attention. You're someone who naturally attracts it by the way you move. Your presence, your energy, your direction. That's what commands attention. And the Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about winning people over. He talked about nerve stillness. He said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That same idea applies here. Stop trying to perform like the right man. Just be him. Commanding attention doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean being arrogant. It means being so centered in your life that she has to lean in to understand what drives you. It means speaking less, moving with intention, and knowing your time is valuable, even if you're alone. Let me give you a quick story. Dan, 50, met a 7-year-old at a networking event. They hit it off. She was fun, curious, and clearly used her attention. Most men threw money, compliments, favors. Dan didn't. He set plans that worked for him. He didn't chase texts. He showed up when he said he would, but never overextended. At first, she tested him. Took a while to respond. Showed a little attitude. Don didn't flinch. He didn't try harder. He stayed calm, playful, unbothered. And what happened? She started chasing his time, not because he gave more, but because he didn't need to. You command attention by living a life that doesn't need her in it, but will welcome her if she adds value. You're not trying to earn her interest. You're giving her the opportunity to experience your gravity. Comment below. I don't chase. If you're ready to stop buying and start embodying real presence. And stay right here, because once you stop performing for her attention, you unlock something she didn't know she needed. Number 10. Let 10 become unreachable, not just unbofter her. Earn your depth. You've got years behind you, lessons learned the hard way. You've been through heartbreak, wins, failures, doubt, rebuilding. You carry scars, visible or not, that younger men don't have yet. That's depth, and it's powerful. But here's the mistake too many older men make. They give that depth away too easily. You meet a young, beautiful woman. She's magnetic. She smells, she listens. And suddenly, you're opening up everything. Your stories, your beliefs, your fears, your past, all laid out in front of someone you hasn't earned it yet. And you think that vulnerability will make her feel closer. But sometimes it just makes you feel lighter and her feel overwhelmed. Because real connection isn't built on how much you reveal. It's built on what proves she can handle. You don't owe her your story. Not on the first date. Not because she's pretty. Not because she seems different. She may be charming, curious, sweet, but your inner world is earned, not given. Let her show you she has emotional maturity. Let her show up consistently. Let her push through her own triggers before you start unpacking your truth. It's the same reason you don't give a child the keys to a Ferrari, not because they're not valuable, but because they're not ready to handle the responsibility. You've got wisdom, but wisdom dropped too soon becomes a lecture. You've got passion, but passion poured out too fast feels like pressure. Let her earn, accesto, what's beneath the surface. And don't confuse being guarded with being cold. You can still connect. You can still be warm, fun, present, but you don't lead with your inner world. You don't try to be deep to impress her. You let time behavior, and consistency reveal if she's even meant to go there with you. The Stoics would call this restraint, self-mastery. Seneca once said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." The same Epictetus connection. It's not about how fast you get deep, it's about how real it becomes when you do, and real depth can't be rushed. Let me give you an example. Mark 53 met a 29-year-old artist. On their first few dates, she kept asking deep questions, childhood trauma philosophy. Mark felt tempted to open the vault, but he didn't. Not because he was hiding, but because he was listening. Instead of sharing his whole story, he flipped it. He asked, "How do you usually handle conflict?" He watched how she reacted when something didn't go her way. He paid attention not just to her answers, but her energy. Weeks later, after she'd shown emotional steadiness, integrity, and real curiosity, he opened up and it landed because now she was ready, now she earned it. That's what makes your depth valuable. It's not how much you share, it's that not everyone gets to hear it. Comment below. I protect my depth. If you're done giving your soul to anyone who smiles, that's it, brother. If you've made it conclusion this far, you're not like most men. You're not here just to chase attention or play surface level games. You're here to lead, to grow, to master yourself. That's exactly what this channel is for. So, if you felt any part of today's video, hit where it needed to subscribe right now, not just to watch, but to walk with other men doing the same work. And if you want to go even deeper, if you want access to exclusive Stoic tools, longer form breakdowns, and a brotherhood of men who live by these values, join the Stoic Inner Circle. The link is below. You'll feel the shift immediately.